Welcome to All Worn Out. I'm your host, Warren Meredith. On the show today, Andrew Parmelee. He's a producer, a sound engineer, a musician, a drummer, a content creator. He's in bands like Cevilain, bands like Complicit. See him live at the Bronson Centre tonight and on December 14th. Let's get into it now with Andrew Parmelee. Hi, everybody. Welcome to All Worn Out. It's a podcast about music. It's a podcast about what you're passionate about. And it's a podcast about what our guest is passionate about. We are so lucky. Fusion? Ha! We are so lucky, excited, thrilled to bring on the electric, the loud, the pounding, the vivacious, the amazing Andrew Parmelee, also known as Parms.
That's what they call me. I don't know if I'm any of those things that you just mentioned, but I am Parms. That's true.
I think you are, man. I think you are those things. And definitely in this music community that we are from here in Ottawa, I think you are a pounding, rocking, amazing musician. And yeah, so thanks for coming on the show.
Appreciate that, man. Thanks for having me.
So let's go back in time immediately, because when I look at a lot of people's history and I go through it, I don't always discover that they've had a history of long bands. Sometimes I find like for myself, I've been in like 2 bands, you know, but 3, but 1 doesn't count in my opinion. But anyways, going back in time,
we all have those, I think.
Right?
Ones that we just want to forget.
Right? Yeah. And there's my first band ever. That was with my best friend. I count that one.
What was it called?
It was called Just Like Before. And we
Cool.
called it like
I like
that
that
because it was just like we were kids again.
Yeah. I
having
love
fun,
that.
Right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was like the first one that got me into it. And I count that. But there was one between Ginger Fox and Timmy Sawyer.
I've heard of Ginger Fox before. Cliff talks about it all the time.
Yeah, man, that was the old school Warren.
Yeah.
And when I was having fun and fucking up a lot.
That's how we got to start, though.
Dude, I was fucking up everything in life at that time. Like, I ask people all the time, I'm like, is it just men in their 20s are self-destructive? Or
Yeah.
was it just me? Like,
No, that's what it is.
yeah,
you're
like,
right.
because I felt like I just kept shooting myself in the foot.
Especially when you're getting into the music industry and you have no idea what the fuck is going on. So...
Yeah. And I was, you know, I was wild. I was a theatrical boy. I was going into theater and then that didn't work. And then I got torn because I wanted to be in music now. And,
yeah.
you know, like big wipey, wussy one. But anyways, I'm not very nice to
Just
myself.
like every high school kid, though. Like, I think we were all hyper emotional and kind of shitty to ourselves. That's kind of, that's what made us who we are today.
True
So,
story. High expectations. Yeah. So you are from Cevilain, and Cevilain is a heavy-hitting powerhouse of a band from this community that's inspired many, including myself. And you've also been in bands like Crossing Jane. So that's like twice that you, like 2 bands that you went on to Rebel with?
Yeah, so Crossing Jane was when Rebel first like came into existence. So Joel and I were in a band at the time. I mean, there was an earlier version of that band, but it really kind of started kicking ass when Joel joined. And Joel came up to me when we were in college together and he goes, "Hey, I'm ready to join a band." I said, "Perfect, I need a singer." And we kicked out our guy and brought in Joel. We didn't just kick him out because we're assholes. We kicked him out because he like roofied 2 of the guitar players.
Wow.
And, yeah, so including myself, but I didn't respond as like terribly as they did. Apparently I didn't get dosed as hard. But yeah, he was like, "Oh, I just want everybody to have fun." So we were like, okay, well, you're done. And then Joel kind of came into the fold at the right time and we did some gigging and stuff like that. And Crossing Jane was like my first real crack at it. Like I was in a semi-successful band before that called Waking Suburbia. That was just like a high school band that was like pop punk.
Yep, that's what I was going to refer to.
Yeah.
Going all the way back to 2008, 2012.
That's crazy.
So that's like a 4-year period. And during that time, fuck, man, I don't even think I was in music. I think I was entering, like I was leaving theater school and just birthing myself into music.
Well, how old are you?
Oh, I'm an old man. I'm not yet 40. Let's put it that way.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
But I am born in the 80s.
Okay.
I'm 38. So
Okay.
I mean, yeah, and thankfully I'm a young looking, but
Yeah, I would have pegged you in your
Oh, thanks.
early 30s, like
Yeah.
31.
yeah,
Max.
thanks.
That's
And,
crazy.
When I was, I like that now, but when I was like in my teens and people were like, "You look like you're 12,"
Yeah.
I'd be like, "Okay, great." And then I was in my, in my 20s, and they're like, "You look like you're 16." I'd be like, "That's great."
Yeah,
You know what I
that's
mean?
good. Yeah, I love it. I love
So-
getting ID'd.
Once I finally got some facial hair, I was like, "I'll never let you go." And then my dad was like, "Curse you," because my dad never got it. Like, I got the facial hair from my mom. Both my parents are the youngest. Like, well, my mom's side. We get our we get our hairlines from our mothers.
Yes,
You know what I mean? So that's why. Like, my dad's side has no beards. They're not bearded men,
Okay.
really. Well, my Uncle Frank's got a mustache.
I mean, it's all about whatever helps you drive home the identity, man. Whatever.
So no. Waking Suburbia. What kind of music was that?
That was pop punk, reminiscent of Blink-182, my favorite band growing up, and it's currently my favorite band, as always, and probably will be till my deathbed. Yeah, that was like we were like little celebrities in our high school. Like, it was really cool. We were like, they'd play us on the announcements. Everyone kind of knew who we were because they saw us like performing at like, school battle of the bands and like local battle of the band stuff. And when you're like a kid, like there's not a lot of gig opportunities, so you're playing a lot of competitions, which is kind of counterintuitive to what the music industry should be. But anyway, that's kind of like what you're limited to. Did a lot of that, had merch, like we're pretty far along, and then after high school, everybody just splits up, right? It left me with a hole because I really, really wanted to continue making that music, but like everyone just kind of went off and did their own thing. So that's when Crossing Jane came into the fold.
Okay.
I was on Kijiji.
Both great band moves, in my opinion, by the way. Waking Suburbia, nice ring to it, and fitting the genre as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes bands pick their names, but they don't fit they don't fit the genre that they're looking for.
Well, we wanted to continue to complain about our hometown.
Makes sense.
So
I like it.
just like any pop punk band.
And yeah, so like you have that very cool feather in your cap that you got onto Rebel Radio, onto FM radio here in the city with not one but two music projects, and I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, kudos to like Rebel at that stage, right? Like they were the ones that really like seeked this out. Like, we wouldn't have if they weren't out there looking for bands to play, they like that wouldn't have mattered. Like, we wouldn't have got on there, obviously. So you're trying to hit up other like bigger local radio stations, and like none of them even give you the time of day. So that was the only one that actually like gave us the time of day.
Yeah,
So-
it was difficult. It's difficult, and a lot of them, radio track not easy, and none of it's easy. You're moving ahead in music, period, in any facet.
Yeah.
I don't find it's easy, but you guys have found ways to have songs as Cevilain, you've had songs cross that million mark, cross that 2 million mark, and
Yeah, I mean, it's I'm a firm believer in just, if the music is really, really good, people will like it, and it will get tons of plays. So obviously, like, I remember when our first song hit 1 million, it was How It Ends, I think. And when that took off, we got on some editorial playlists on Spotify. And that was crazy because we had never seen that sort of like traffic come into our page before. And up until then, we were kind of struggling, not knowing if like what we were doing was working. And then when we hit that one, I personally didn't even really like the song when we were writing it and recording it. I was like, whatever. Like, it's our first song that we're writing as a full band, the four of us. I was like, whatever. I'm just gonna go along with whatever. And then when we finally got the mix back from John, who plays in a band called Point North, and he does like Falling in Reverse and stuff like that, for mixing. He sent us back the mix, and like I was like, okay, we might have something here. This might be the beginning of something huge. And then we put it out, got on a bunch of playlists, blew the fuck up, and then we just kind of like hit a crazy stride after that. It was awesome.
So I think what you described there is like you cracked through the ice a little bit. Like you had a song that stuck. You had something stick to the wall, and the benefit of that is now it's like it's opened the door. So people will give you a chance, maybe.
Yeah.
Or the algorithm will give your song a chance at the beginning, maybe, because you made that break.
Although I do feel like the chasing the algorithm and try to do anything for the algorithm is a losing battle. You're never going to win. Like, you're never going to understand the algorithm because it's always changing. People's tastes are always changing. The industry's changing so much that in my opinion, like you got to keep your head down, make really good stuff on your own merit, and really believe in like what you're making. And then that makes a huge difference, because if you're just like writing for the sake of writing and putting out music for the sake of putting out music, no one's gonna like. People will hear that in the tunes.
I tell everybody that if on this podcast, now I know I don't need to tell you, but I'm just saying, echoing what you're saying, which is if everybody in the band 100% believes in the song, it will start doing things.
It's true.
Like, you don't know what it will be, but it will start doing things because everybody is pushing it in their own unique way because they believe in it. And all of a sudden it's like, whoa, why is the song here? Why is it there? And then you meet as a band and you're like, well, if we all do this together and we all push the song this way, it could do this. And because you all believe in it, all of a sudden, boom, it ends up in another place.
That's an interesting point you bring up, because we, like, the way that I see it now is that Cevilain is so kind of like established at this point that as we move forward and as we look for innovative ways to like improve on what we're doing, that can cause rifts within the band, because, you know, there's a couple guys in the band really, really wholeheartedly believe in live shows. And they think that like the way to build fans is to like go out and play shows. And I don't necessarily agree with that. It doesn't necessarily mean that I'm right, but and they're wrong or anything like that. It just means that I don't think that's the path forward. I think that it's all about reaching people online and getting all of that stuff through Spotify or through whatever algorithm bumps and stuff like that, putting out videos. That's kind of where I see the success happening. That could mean, though, that if you have two members working on that side of the band, two members working on the live show, that ultimately puts you in the same direction. So it's as I'm learning in that group specifically, I am very much taking in the opposite opinion of mine and trying to use it to our advantage, as opposed to just being like, I don't think that's the way forward, you know, and try not to be an asshole about it and just be like, even though I am an asshole, but like I try to be like, okay, I disagree. But like, if you continue doing that, then I can do this thing and we can both move in the same direction, but with different philosophies on it. And this is kind of a new step forward for us. So I'm interested to see how it goes or how it ends. But yeah, no, I think we will find success with it. But again, it's uncharted territory for all of us, I think. So
yeah, well, they know you and you know them, and you guys are like family at this point. And I know that like Cliff Cliff to me is a genius all in his own right. You're a genius in your own right. Eddie's a genius in his own right. Joel's a genius in his own right.
Yeah.
I mean that. I mean, each of you are excellent in your own regards, to your own path.
We're definitely different.
But when you come together, it's fantastic. And I agree with you that it's like, where is it? Where do we find the crowd that sustains us as a band? And I do see these bands on Instagram. I do see these bands on TikTok. And what I dislike is like, well, what happens is they get labeled, especially on TikTok, they're getting labeled as a TikTok band or an Instagram band or whatever. And you're like, no. They're a band, and they're going to play live for you. This thing.
The TikTok thing doesn't necessarily like really bother me too much. If someone was like, oh, like you guys are the TikTok band, like that's how it starts. That's how they discover you. And you'll always be that band, how in the context that you were discovered in. So it's like, oh, you're that band that opened for that big group, or you're that band that I saw at that it is until it isn't. And then they kind of find their way into your community one way or another, and then you're something else entirely to them. Right? So it's really it's people let go of the preconception of how you were discovered pretty quickly, especially super fans. They evolve super quick.
You know, I was talking to Cliff when he was on here, and I think it was months ago now, but we were talking about Adam Gonche.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, Cliff, is Adam coming back to 3 Days Grace?
We couldn't say anything.
I know, but he did it so good.
Yeah.
I'd heard rumors. I'd heard rufflings.
Yeah.
Or read rufflings. And so when Cliff was like, no.
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
Yeah.
He's laying the law down on me. I accept.
Yeah, we didn't know for sure, but obviously like we talk and stuff like that.
It.
And we had a pretty strong idea. Like we knew that like Neil and Adam were homies again, and we know that he was always fans with Matt, so we're friends with Matt, so we're like, we see it coming. Like it wouldn't surprise us at all if it happened. We didn't think that Matt was going to continue to be in the band. That was like, whoa, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And they went from like 3 Days Grace to 3 Days Grace 2.0 to 3 Days Grace Supergroup.
Yeah,
You know?
I agree.
So,
I agree, like, because it allows the band, it's forever changed. Like, what happened. It's not like they're erasing it.
yeah,
They're just like, this has changed the band, but going forward, he's back.
I fuck with it.
And yeah, I'm cool with that too.
Yeah.
And like, I asked people about like the whole, moving on from Chester Bennington thing and Linkin Park and Emily, the new lead vocalist. And at first, I was very like purist. I was very loyal purist. Like,
That's a knee-jerk reaction, right?
yeah, my first reaction was like, how dare he touch Chester's
I know.
legacy?
I know, right?
And then
then you hear her go.
Yes.
and
Then
you're
I
like,
listened to The Emptiness Machine, and I was like, oh,
what a great album.
I got all the chills that I got when I was biking with my Sony my Sony CD player.
Yeah.
That didn't jump when I was biking.
Oh, it had
because
it had the anti skipping tech or whatever.
Exactly. I think
remember
it was
those.
like my best friends, and
Yeah.
I could borrow it from them, And like when I would bike around with it, I felt so cool, because
Mhm.
and yeah, it brought back all those memories. So
Yeah.
I was like, all right, I get it. She's special. It's like a rebirth of the band.
And I
get
like
it.
that they didn't go with just like Ollie or like Ollie Sykes, or they didn't go with some like Derek Whibley or something. They actually went with like somebody that like most people hadn't heard of,
What are your thoughts on Derek Whibley in the whole, he's now going after the treble charger guy, Greg Norrie, and
Yeah. I mean, he's got every right to kind of follow whatever avenue is going to help him move forward and expose any bullshit in the industry, right? Like, I think that there needs to be more of that for sure.
Yeah.
It's crazy that sort of thing can happen and then like nobody knows about it until some famous dude writes a book about it, right? So like it makes you wonder how much stuff is getting swept under the rug leading up to that. But yeah, I've always like really looked up to Derek. I swear to God, I almost died at one of his concerts once at Rockfest. I got like smushed into the barricade so hard that like I couldn't breathe. It was so bad. And then he's like hyping up the crowd, and I'm like, I'm gonna die, Derek. Like, so I was like, I ended up having to crowd surf out of the festival, like off to the side, because I just had to push myself up above people because I would have probably like passed out or something like that. So that's my like only real memory of like a Sum 41 concert. So I don't have like great memories of Sum 41 concerts, but I've always looked up to Derek as like a one hell of a front man.
And
So
like songwriter too, right? Like, I have appreciation for those songs that just came out, that he just released in the last couple of years.
did you know he mixed that?
Wow.
Yeah, he mixed that record. I looked at the liner notes and I was like, what? I messaged Joel Wanasek, the guy that mixes Cevilain right now and some of the Complicit stuff, and he's like, "Are you serious? Like, dude, that's really good. He did a really good job." He's like, "Who's mastering?" And I don't even remember. It was just some dude. But to front your own band, to record the whole thing, he obviously collaborated with a couple engineers, but he mixed that shit. That's next level talent. That's somebody who understands music at a level that most frontmen or front women absolutely do not.
I agree with that statement.
Yeah.
I concur with that statement. As front men are not very good at technology. I'm one of those front men, but I also haven't encountered very many other front men or front women that are like tech wizards.
Yeah.
Most of us are like, plug me in.
It's definitely less common. Like, you look at like Ollie Sykes from Sum 41. That would be crazy. Ollie Sykes from Bring Me the Horizon. He's like the tech kind of front man now. Now that Jordan Fish is gone, he's always like done all of his own light shows and like programmed all of his own stuff. So it's rare in the industry for sure. But I think that there is something special when that happens. They're front, they're center, and they've kind of curated their show or their band kind of like around that. And I think that there is kind of an advantage to that for sure for some bands. So
absolutely. And like Derek Whibley, I mean, love it. Love Sum 41. Was inspiring and interesting to see how that happened around the Blink-182 thing. And like, that's amazing too, that a band, sometimes we think like, oh, you can't be too much like that band. You can't be too much like that band. But I mean, look at it. They're different. They're completely different, but they're similar. And one band was able to build kind of off of that. And I think that's amazing. That's how genres take off and move forward, as you get one following the other after the other.
yeah, it's kind of like they put their left foot forward, the other band puts the right foot forward, and you're like, oh, this is like evolving a whole new genre. Like Blink, Green Day, and Sum 41 kind of got pop punk off the ground, like into the mainstream, which was unreal, because that genre of music kind of existed, but it was like this like weird like skate punk stuff that wasn't quite breaking through. And then when Blink came out with Dude Ranch, it was like, oh my god, okay, this is like a different breed of music, and it hit mainstream, which was the main important thing. So it turned people onto the genre.
Yeah.
So,
well, as a producer, like, how do you find like, well, you're recording all these different bands these days, right? You're recording different, like, is there a genre that you're focused on, or is there genres that you're focused on?
Yeah, pop punk and active rock are my like by far my most comfortable genres. I've done country and stuff for like artists. I've built tracks for like hip hop and stuff like that. I've done everything, but I find that I really thrive in active rock and pop punk. Those are my favorite genres, so it makes sense that like I'm more emotionally invested in it as opposed to just, you know, pencil pushing into a country song. But now I know that sounds pretentious, but but like I don't know, I just find they're more formulaic, so it's like it's easy, you know. Yeah. Not saying it's easy to write a hit country song or anything like that. I think there's a lot of skill in that, but like there's tools out there now like Suno AI. I don't know if you've ever used Suno.com or Suno AI. It's a song generation software. And I gotta say, my job was definitely in jeopardy until I started using it. You know, using it to my advantage. If a pop punk artist comes, yeah, I got this song, I played on acoustic guitar. Okay, write me, and then I go into Suno, I go, write me a song in the key of A minor with these 4 chords. Here are the lyrics. I need something with guitar, catchy guitar riff and this, and it will spit out a song in like 30 seconds. And then you take that, you drop it into Pro Tools, and you start to move parts of the song around. You start to re-record instruments, change parts and stuff like that. It does a lot of the heavy lifting for you, so then you can go in and kind of inject the emotion into the song. So it's an evolution. I don't look at it as a bad thing yet. I look at it as more of like an evolution into what is possible for artists now, aren't restricted. So they can kind of go to this tool and help them write songs with it.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to me, it's kind of terrifying in a way, but also it's exciting. I mean, technology is always that. You're always, if it's meaningful, you know, flying was a big deal.
Yeah.
It still is.
People are like, what's going to happen with cars now that people can fly?
Yeah.
Is everyone just going to fly everywhere? It's like, well, no, like there's a time and place for every tool, right? So like, yeah, I mean,
that's right. Going to the moon, all that stuff. There's a time and place and a technology for it. So absolutely, I think that's a good way of looking at it. Mm-hmm. And it's like people talk about auto-tune and they don't even refer to it as Melodyne, which I find really funny. They just refer to it as auto-tune.
People don't know what auto-tune is.
I know. Yeah. And you're just like, listen, it sucks, but some people need it more than others.
Sure.
And some songs need it more than others.
I mean, think of it this way. Would you, like, there's plenty of bassists out there that can play with a fretless bass, right?
Yeah.
But like when you're singing, or when you're playing a bass, and you have frets, you're not saying that the bass player's cheating. No, because he's using frets. It's basically auto-tune for your guitar or for your bass, right? So like if you're playing live, I think subtle auto-tune is like almost like, especially in active rock and stuff like that, is almost needed these days because people are so used to hearing that on the record, and then when you play live, like, oh, there's shit live, and it's like, well, no, like we're moving our vocal up and down a couple of cents to make it like a little bit tighter because humans aren't perfect, right?
Again, yeah, when you try to explain to people that you're moving it a dime, like you're moving it 10, you're moving it just a point.
Yeah,
whatever,
exactly.
Right? Yeah, 0.1 or whatever, and you're trying to explain that. It's like, you're not really off. It's the person's like off in an artistic fashion, if you could say it.
It makes a big difference too. Like if you're off by like a couple of like, just by like a little bit, it can be really off-putting.
Oh, yeah.
And you're all it takes is a plug-in to go, okay, well, all I'm going to do is humanize it, just correct it, just bump it up a little bit, and then boom, you have a perfect sounding vocal. It's like, why would I not use that tool?
Yeah.
Right?
And
it's like,
if you can notice it, it doesn't normally get out on radio. Like you don't normally hear that song.
Unless you're using it as an effect.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, which is cool.
But if you're trying to cover up a mistake or fix something, and it's a big, like, oh, you hear like, wow, you're like, no.
Yeah.
That will never get anywhere anyways, folks.
Facts.
But it's like, it's just those little changes sometimes in a song that needs a little push.
Yeah, totally.
I wanted to ask you about what it was like. I know this was like a long time ago now, or a while ago, but you guys in Cevilain, you got to go to the US and play shows there. Mm-hmm. And I just thought that was amazing when you guys did that.
Yeah, it's crazy. Holy crap. So 2 of us got COVID right when we were leaving. So Joel, he goes, yeah, guys, like we're loading into the RV, like at my studio. We're loading the stuff into the RV, and he goes, yeah, guys, I got a little bit of a scratchy throat, just letting you know. We were like, okay. We kind of were like in optimistic denial, I guess. We were kind of like, oh, he'll be fine. As we started getting deeper and deeper into the States to our first date in Atlanta, we were like, Joel's like going down. Like he is declining quick, and he's sweating by himself in his bunk the whole way down. Took 2 days for us to get down to Atlanta. We go to play, and we're parked outside the venue on this like 45-degree angle. I swear to God, like I can't believe the RV didn't just slide down.
Been there.
And yeah, so he's sleeping in his bunk on like a 45, and we're like, hey, like you almost ready to go? He's like, yeah, you guys are gonna have to set up my stuff. And I was like, okay, cool, yeah, we'll set up your crap. And then he gets up on stage, and like he goes to sing, and he goes to like scream and stuff like that, and just nothing comes out, right? Like you can do everything right, and then like your just voice just
Been
like
there
there's
as well.
nothing.
Yeah.
So and it's heartbreaking because you make the huge trip out there, people are relying on you, you kind of want your band to kind of have your back and stuff, and then like you just can't deliver for them, and that's extremely brutal, like mentally. Especially when you got to go play another date the next night, right? So you fear you're doing damage, and like, you know, the nerves start to set in, and that date wasn't fantastic for us anyway. Just in terms of like turnout and stuff like that, we still had a few people out, but like but as the tour went on, more people started coming out to the shows, which was nice to see. And then people started to recover towards the end. The night we spent in Nashville, we decided to cancel the Houston date because we would have had to drive quite a while to get to Houston, and then we wouldn't have known if we would have been able to even perform based on the 2 vocalists. Cliff and Joel both had COVID at that point. So we went to
what a crazy time that we went through.
We took 4 days off when we were in Nashville. I went out and got hammered with my dad because he had come down to like see the tour, and I hammered, and then I got lost in Nashville. Not only did I get lost, but I didn't actually know where the RV was. So I didn't know where home was either. So like even if I had a map, I was like, okay, like even if I had Google Maps, I was like, I don't even know where the RV is. So eventually I ended up just like kind of stumbling around until like I heard the generator and I was like, I know that sound. So
that's hilarious.
So me and the sound tech are like walking towards the generator. The sound's getting louder. We're like, oh my God, thank God. I walk into the RV, everyone's watching Trailer Park Boys. I sit down, super relieved. And then I sit down for probably 10 seconds and I go, yeah, no, I got to get up. I walked out, and as I'm walking out the door, I projectile vomit all over the flower bed directly outside of the RV. And I just laid there in the flower bed with the generator blaring next to me. I was like, is this rock bottom? Is this what that is? So that was really bad. I wasn't sick at the point, so that was kind of nice. I ended up recovering fully the next day, which was good. The hangover wasn't even that bad, but you know, when you're 30, like, you know, you can't do things like you used to, right? Like you can't party like you used to. So
beautiful. That sound was what led you back.
Oh, dude, I was like, yeah,
musician, right? Yeah. As a producer, musician, it's sound that leads you back to your lost train.
I just remember like walking around, like I walked 10 minutes that way. I was like, I don't hear the generator. I walked 10 minutes the other way, and I was like, oh, I could hear it in the distance. Like, there it is. Like, even if a cop had like come over and been like, yo, what's up? Like, do you know where you're going? I would have been like, I don't know, man. Like, I'm totally lost. Like, if you could find an RV with a trailer, like, that was probably my house.
I gotta follow my ear right now. Sorry, man.
Yeah, like, it was bad.
That's where I'm at right now.
But yeah, it was expensive. It was fun. We got a lot of new fans. We had a good time. Getting dope down there was tough.
I'll bet.
That was a big thing for me because like we're Canadian, right?
Yeah.
I walked into the New York dispensary and they laughed at my ID. They're like, I was like, can I just buy dope here? They're like, hell no, you need a state ID. So I was like, oh, I'm Canadian. That's a big state, right? And they just laughed and sent me on my way. So we had to find it some other way. But it sucked. Yeah, man. Especially because I use it every day to like, you know, get to bed and stuff. So
I hear you. Yeah. And it's a big thing around the world, right? Like people run into this issue, musicians and athletes, And that basketball player, that poor girl who got, stuck in Russia, and then like finally they let her out, and it's like, come on.
I know, especially when like it's clearly not malicious intent either, like,
or for distribution's sake.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, you got to be careful in communist countries. To be fair, I probably wouldn't have touched it if the United States was Russia. I probably wouldn't have looked for dope, but. Yeah, like
I agree. Yes, good point.
Yeah,
I agree with this. Yes. So you have a big show tomorrow?
Yeah. I guess that's tomorrow, eh? Yeah.
With I Mother Earth?
Yeah. That's gonna be super fun. That's
at the Bronson Centre?
Yeah, that's right.
Are there still any tickets left?
I think it's pretty close to sell out. I think that there's like only like 25 tickets left or something like that at the time of this interview. So it should be sold out by tomorrow.
Okay, if you're watching this, then get a move on. And maybe if you're lucky, you'll get the last pair. But you better be.
I don't wear my shirt at shows, so you get to see that.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't wear one.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm a crazy guy.
Did you always do that? When did you start?
It was because I was soaking my shirts. Like they were getting soaking wet. And I was like, it just becomes like gross on me.
Yeah.
And then when we switched to our white and like red aesthetic, I just said, screw it, I'm just going to throw on body paint. Which was funny because at our last show, I accidentally put on liquid latex instead of white paint, and I'm allergic to latex. I have a mild allergy to it.
Yeah.
And like my chest was like, bup, 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 like all like shitty. And like I had to I was like, why is it so sticky as I'm putting it on? And then I'm like, oh, I know what just happened. And I ran to the bathroom. I just started scrubbing it off and like trying to get it off. And then by the time I got on stage, my chest was like beet red. And I was like in a disgusting amount of pain during the first song. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get through this set. Like, it was so bad. Ugh. The stuff you don't see, right? Like, nobody knew. Like, no one could. I mean, I'm covered in fog anyway, so no one could see me back there. But as I'm playing it, like, I'm trying to, like, just stay with it, trying to focus on the click track and, like, just trying to have a good time without, like, thinking about it too hard.
Yeah, Taming Sorry had one drummer who did that, took the shirt off all the time, and then Taylor took it off sometimes, only in extreme situations. But he tried to wear the shirts for us, and I appreciate that. It was a good effort, Taylor.
Hey man, you gotta have something to show off if you're gonna wear no shirt.
So Bronson Centre, it's a great place to play. It's a fantastic venue in my opinion.
Have you guys played there?
Yeah, one time for JJ Wild.
Sick.
And it was a fantastic night. Yeah. But I mean, I love that venue. I love being in the bowels of it, and it's the you're down in the dungeon of it.
Oh my God, literally though. The green room is in the boiler room.
Yes. Yeah. And there's the tiny, tiny hallways because it's an old school.
Yep.
Where I just imagine all these nuns going, stay in one line, single file.
with the strap. Yeah.
Back in line, young ladies. And you definitely get that feel, but I love that venue.
Totally.
And yeah, it's going to be a great show. I hope you guys have a lot of fun. I know you will.
It's crazy. I think I've played a show. We've played there twice. And then I've got this one tomorrow. And then the following week, I got one with Complicit.
Yes.
And then we have one that's unannounced that's coming up in February. I'm not allowed to say who the headliner is, but it's another Cevilain opener, and it's in February. So that's like amazing. It's like I'm just playing the Bronson Centre like freaking crazy. I don't know what it is. Just sometimes the stars just align.
Keep it up. Keep it up.
I
don't even think it's. You know what? I think when people say, "Oh, the stars align," it's like, gosh, to me, it's like a hockey team. You like hockey?
Oh, I love hockey.
Right? It's like a hockey team that puts in the reps. They buy in and they put the reps in.
Being ready for success.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, because you put all the reps in, you did all the work, you did everything you had to do, and you're in shape. You look after the little details.
Sure.
Things just start running. It can happen.
Totally.
And of course, I'm happy that that's happening. That's amazing. It's
exciting. It's like I've gone to a lot of concerts there growing up. And like I've seen some of my favorite groups there. I used to see Alex Gut and Boyce Avenue there. I was really into like softer rock when I was a little bit younger and stuff like that, as well as the heavy stuff. But I went to a few concerts there, and like to be back there and to be actually performing there is like, I don't know. It's just like you forget how far you've come sometimes, It's hard to like stop and smell the roses when you're grinding so hard.
And I Mother Earth, I don't know their history exactly, but I know that their manager at one point owned the venue, the Phoenix, over in Toronto.
that's been sold. He
And
still
then,
owns.
And then he sold that.
Still owns Bronson though.
He still owns the Bronson,
Yeah.
right? And he's still affiliated with I Mother Earth?
Yeah, and Finger 11.
Okay, amazing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a perfect connection for you guys overall, in my opinion. Like Finger 11,
He's
I
a nice
Mother
guy.
Earth.
I love
Absolutely.
Zeke is like a strong advocate for like getting bands off the ground. So it's been nice. You know, he sees us working hard and succeeding in other areas. So he goes, yeah, I throw him a bone kind of thing. He pays us well, and like it's nice when there's a couple of, you know, knights out there in the
Hell
field that are tossing these guys bones, because it's the only way that they can get off the ground, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really awesome. Making those connections so important. Same like you were mentioning about Spectrasonic and Sean Scanlon, such an important connection for
Totally.
bands who want to find a way to open for bigger crowds and introduce themselves to people and, you know, prove yourselves that you want to be on a professional level.
Yeah,
And he's been around a long time. I mean,
since the 80s,
right?
late 80s, which
Right.
is, I mean, he's abrasive. I'm not even gonna candy coat it. Like he's like he's intense, man. Like sometimes I'm like, is he mad or is he just like, you know? But you know, I appreciate what he does, and I think that like we've worked with him a couple of times just as a promoter on a couple of shows. He's done a really good job. So like I do believe that he does really, really good work, and that kind of allows you to be a little bit of an asshole sometimes. I'm the same way. I think if I'm going to be a little bit of a dick, I got to kind of fix it on the back end. I got to work really hard and make sure that people are happy and stuff. So I think, you know, he's certainly another one of those guys that like, you know, really helps out the scene. For sure.
Sometimes being an asshole or being perceived this way is merely you're holding up standards.
Fair.
And so
Yeah.
when you hold up standards, sometimes people are just like, I don't like that. I want to smoke here all the time in this spot. And you're like, no. The standard is you can't smoke here. Got to smoke over there where the sign says so.
That's actually a really good point. I never thought of it that way.
And so people are like, that dude's an asshole. And you'd be like, no. That dude is holding up a standard. He's saying, this is the rule. This is the protocol.
True.
Let's stick to it.
Yeah.
And, you know, so I get it. And people who stick around for a long time in the music industry aren't doing a lot wrong. They're doing way more right.
True.
Because this is a super difficult industry to stay in. So it's easy to criticize and be like, oh, these guys are doing it wrong. But it's like, yeah, but have you stuck around that long in this industry?
It is easy to throw the label of like gatekeeper because they're an ass, you know, and like it's more complicated than that. And you're right. Like it is more nuanced than just like a blanket label.
Ginger Fox, I think, got to a point black labeled or blacked out by Spectrasonic. But in my opinion, it was justified, and it wasn't
What'd
wrong.
you do?
I didn't do anything.
That's what everyone that did something wrong always says.
I'll tell you what I did. I trusted the wrong people.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah.
So my guitar player didn't bring a backup guitar or another set of strings.
Oh, so he busted a string and
while we were opening for a Juno nominee. So we were opening for Lindy Ortega, and she was, you know, nominated for a Juno, and we were sold out Cafe de Cuff. Not a lot of people, but it's still sold out.
you could jam that place though.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I had two acoustic guitar players at this time. It was me and two acoustic guitar players. I didn't even have a full band experience at this point. And, you know, so just talking about, maybe this was 2010. I don't know, maybe 2011. Like, we're going way back.
Damn, I was in high school.
Yeah, man. We're
Feel
going,
old now.
we're going way back. And, you know, Sean gave us an opportunity.
Sure.
And I wasn't obviously ready because I didn't hold my band to the standard that they needed to be held to. I mean, now I will be super anal. I mean, ask my bands now what I'm like. They'll be like, Warren, go away. And I'll be like, do you have two guitars? Do you have everything? Do you have this? Do you have that? Have you planned this? And they'll be like, Warren, go away.
It's because you've been there.
Yeah.
You've felt the heat on your ass.
Yes.
And like I feel like if a band or a band member has felt that heat before, they really are way more inclined to concede to things that you're like, oh, that makes sense. You're less of an asshole. You're so much easier to work with when you've been in the trenches, you know.
I've had it, you know, and so like I understand when people are like, "Oh, why can't I get ahead? Why can't I do this?" And I'll be like, "Dude, you can do it. You can do it. I've been where you were. I've you know, up, down, all around, and it's all about finding the right work attitude and the right habits and the right goals, and keep moving your goalposts. Don't be satisfied because you win one band competition. Like
my God.
That's not gonna do anything besides keep momentum going in the right direction, which is a good thing.
I honestly think that those band competitions do more harm than good.
it definitely tests the egos, right? It tests out the egos. And are these people artists, or are these people looking to prove something to themselves in some, can I get here fashion? And it's like, that's not what it's about, Like, I still have that voice. I still have that ego in me, because it will still say, like, Warren, Elvis never played in Europe. So if you play in Europe, then you one up Elvis. And then I'm like, shut up. Shut up, you idiot.
Yes.
What are you talking about?
That's true.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So the ego, the idiot voice still lives in me, but I'm more able now to tell it, like, you are such a child.
Well, you
like,
can let it speak, but just you don't have to listen to it.
That's
right.
right.
Yeah, like you don't have to put that into practice. It's like I think that, like, you almost want to prove it wrong.
Yeah.
I can do it without having to do whatever the bullshit you think that you have to do, right? Like it's
And that's why I said, like, when Cliff was on here, and I was like, dude, I was legit driving not far from, like, I was driving on Carling Avenue. I can remember the road I was on, and like and I just remember Cevilain coming on. It was probably, this is how it ends. It probably was.
Mm-hmm.
And it was coming on, and then Rebel, and it was Cub talking. And I remember just going, fuck, Warren. Why did you let other people decide things for you? Why did you let other people impact your journey?
Yeah.
And your song, and you guys, and hearing Cliff, and I was like, Cliff's a good dude. You're a good dude. If you work hard, you could do this. You could do this.
Yeah.
And it inspired me.
Good songs, man. It's like not to toot my own horn or Cliff's horn or anything like that, but like the dude's a good songwriter, and like he's got a crazy good voice, and it's very, very distinct.
Yes.
So like you just lean on the things that are objectively true.
Yeah.
And eventually things start to materialize. But if you're constantly going to compare yourself, you're going to become something that isn't you.
Correct.
You're just constantly going to be going, oh, I want to be like this. Or like one of them is like in the pop punk community, you hear a lot of Tom DeLonge impressions. Like people are like, oh yeah, the Riot and stuff like that. And like, obviously, yeah, there's a level of paying homage to that Southern Californian accent, but if you do that, like you're instantly kind of thrown in with the rest of the people that are just trying to be like that, as opposed to just like doing your own thing. So, the comparison is the death of innovation. Like you just got to just push forward with who you are, and then if it's good, then people will listen to it. It's that simple,
Yeah. I agree with that. Well, I mean, what do you think about all these artists that cross genres now? They don't care about genres. They're like, I'll do this, I'll do that. Do you think it's because the producers are so good today? Like,
I mean, can you give me an example of a band?
Post Malone. I mean, jumping into country, jumping out of country. And there's other people doing that. He's not the only one.
You can only do that when you're huge.
Okay.
Think about it. Like, you can't name any other artist that's like
Beyonce
at our level.
Is massive, right? I mean,
you could do whatever you want when you already have an established audience that's going to like whatever, like, because you have so many super fans at that point that they're going to listen to you, whatever. So I think that like you're going to find that way more at the top, like way more common at the top, because people want to innovate at the top, because they know that there's an audience. Yeah, they know that there's an audience. They know that they have super fans. But the second you go to our level, then you're gonna get people that are trying to be very consistent, because that's branding 101, right?
Correct.
Like, so, yeah.
All right. Very cool. That's one of maybe the best answers I've gotten to that question. I like that very much. I mean, because there's the other what was I thinking about? Dang it, it's gone. Anyways, so are you still doing Fill the Void Studios? Is that still your production house?
Yeah, it's just like, it's an arbitrary name that is like, because I work with kids a lot. Like I work with a lot of youth and like get their bands off the ground. I take artists that are pretty good for their age, like, in between like 14 and 19, and I put them in bands and I develop them as artists. And you need an arbitrary kind of like business name to do that, taxes and all that bullshit. But like at the end of the day, it's just me doing stuff in my studio. So
okay, cool. And tell me the story of Complicit, because I was looking at your videos online, and there's like several covers, and then I saw videos with like Alana Sterling doing vocals, but I also saw other people doing vocals. What's the story of Complicit?
This is, I think Complicit very much encapsulates exactly what I am and what I do as a musician, or as a producer. It's important to note that Complicit was born out of a extremely rough time in my life with Cevilain and with my time alone. So this is like pretty dark stuff. I was going through a really hard time. I'm an addict, and I was addicted to opiates, and I've been clean for I don't even keep track anymore. I've been clean for a long time, and it was like a lot of Oxy and Percocet and various painkillers, whatever I get my hands on. And I was in Cevilain, and we were going through a tough time trying to put out this song with Adam, and I wasn't happy with where it was going. And it was a song that Cliff wrote. And to be honest, Wars is a great song.
It is.
But the first version of the song, we ended up hiring out the mix, and then I wasn't happy with the mix, but we spent a lot of money on the mix. So everyone wanted to put it out because we spent so much money on it.
Of course. But
I wasn't happy with where it was at. So it caused a big rift in the band. I was really, really unhappy with where I was at. So it eventually led to me taking my leave at the time from the group, and there was a lot of nuanced bullshit in there. But I did take a step back from the band at that point. I left. At that point, I felt like obviously no musician just sits on their hands; they have to do something, right? So I realized, okay, I've got all these skills. I got a nice camera. I got a recording studio. I love doing covers of like pop songs and turning them into rock songs. I mean, Pop Goes Punk was like some of my favorite, or Punk Goes Pop was like my favorite records growing up. So I wanted to do my own version of that. So I called the project Complicit, because the whole idea was that I felt like I was doing something bad because I had left the group and I was working with other people.
Okay.
So I was complicit, like everyone was complicit with me.
Okay.
Hence the merch right now that I'm wearing.
Very nice. I like it.
But so I left that group.
Links below.
Yeah. I started making tunes with artists, and I worked with Ella, which was like a promising young artist at the time. We did I think the first thing I put out was I See Fire. And I tried to use all the skills that I kind of learned from all the various groups that I've did, and I bet on myself for the first time.
Nice.
And I recognized pretty quickly that I'm pretty capable when I kind of just like take full accountability for everything. And through the process of this is what ultimately led me back to Cevilain, was they put out a song called Cure. And I'm not on that song. So that song was fully done by Joel, produced the whole thing. It's actually one of my favorite Cevilain songs.
What?
It's probably in my top 3. Yeah.
That's wild.
And
that's wild of you to say that.
Joel is one of the most gifted songwriters I've ever met, by far. Especially for this genre. And he wrote, produced, and MIDI'd out the drums. Those aren't real drums on the record. That was MIDI drums. And
Now, did he play those on like a keyboard?
I programmed them for sure.
Okay.
He's a good drummer though.
Because I've watched people play drums on keyboards, and it's impressive as hell.
It's fucked. No, he definitely programmed it. And I love the stuff that he writes. So objectively, love the song. I didn't write any of the drums on it, so I actually find it's one of the easier songs to play because he doesn't. But the song didn't really challenge me. It's but which is fine. Like that's what the song needed, right? Like there's
a simplicity to it.
Yeah, it jumps back and forth from like 3/4 and 4/4, so it's like back and forth. But
all right,
and like 5/7 or something. But it's not particularly difficult for me to play. But at first I was struggling with it a bit.
What if I asked you to play a song in 6/8? Would that throw you a little bit? Like if I had said like come play a Southern rock,
bro.
If I said come play come play Southern rock tonight, and we're gonna do like there's gonna be some 6/8, there's gonna be a lot of 4/4.
Yeah, I hope Cliff is watching this because he used to write exclusively in 6/8 and 3/4.
Whoa!
And I harped on him so hard. I used to pick on him so hard for it that he started just writing in 4/4. And so like Hush and like all of our like early stuff, a lot of it's in 3/4 or 6/8. But he ended up folding, and now he kind of writes in both. So cool. It's a productive relationship. I find he pushes me, I push him.
That is important in a band. I find like people want like a lot of bands want perfect control or perfect like oversight, and it's like it's not about that. It's about a perfect share.
So
like trusting each other.
Like there's two. I find that there's two formats. Like the way the Complicit operates is that it's I'm
You're the boss.
I hate saying that. I hate saying it like this, but like I really am kind of like the mastermind controlling all of the strings, right?
The buck stops here.
Yeah, it kind of. Yeah, obviously, like I'm always going to listen to everyone else that's involved in my project.
That's
always,
pretty cool.
Always.
That's a cool thing.
Because there's things that they're better at, than I
Nice.
am. I'm not very good at writing vocal melodies. That's why Alana's on board. And I remember when I reached out.
What a talent, by the way.
To circle all the way back to what I was saying before is when I ended up finding my way back to Cevilain. It was funny because if you look at our cover, the Complicit cover of Positions, it's featuring Alana Sterling, but Cliff is also in that track.
Yeah,
and that was the first interaction that Cliff and I had to find my way back. And I remember he came into the studio and things were a bit weird. Things were a bit awkward, as they are when you have a huge falling out with somebody. But I think we both wanted to repair that relationship. So he came in, he came to record and realized he can't hit these notes. Alana's singing these crazy high notes. And Cliff, I don't know if he was trying to prove himself or if like he really wanted to just like nail it or whatever it was. But I said, why don't you just sing an octave under and just add the Cliff texture underneath? And he goes, no, I'm gonna scream it. And he just screamed the same notes as Alana and sang in unison. And I felt like the song was missing that like that aggression, right? Because Alana's not particularly like adds a ton of distortion to her voice or anything, or to their voice or anything like that. But Cliff's pretty good at that. So he came in and added that extra texture, and then that started to rebuild our relationship quite a bit. And it was weird seeing my worlds collide like that. And then that's when I reached out to Alana and said, we need to do this full time. So we need to be together, like working on music, because Alana is far more talented in writing vocals and working on vocals than I am. So it was nice to get that synergy, and we've moved forward with Nally and Jason. Jason was actually in Waking Suburbia. He was the drummer for Waking Suburbia from high school.
Wow.
So it was like, I called on him because I was like, I model my drumming off of Jason.
Wow.
So Jason's got to come into the fold and do, because he's the only guy I can think of that can do what I would want him to do, what I would like creatively do.
Brilliant.
He's the guy for that job.
Hell yeah.
And he'll do stuff and I'll be like, I don't know if I like that. And then he'll like work on it a little bit and I'll be like, dude, that's way better than anything I would write as a drummer. So it was nice to see him like come into the fold, and now he learned how to scream, and like he's a sick bass player. So it was just like one of those things that just kind of happened. And I feel like I'm kind of the ringleader of these, like this funny band of misfits in Complicit. And I'm looking forward to our first like, major gig. So
I think that you're surrounding yourself with super talents at this point.
Feels that way.
When you talk about like Alana Sterling and you talk about like experts in their fields, and you're right, you're bang on. Like even the person who recorded Taming Sorry, he'll always admit, he'll say, vocals, melody, it's not me, not 100% my forte.
Yeah.
So sometimes he'll lean on me, or he'll lean on another artist, Samantha Martin, who's incredible, and he'll reach out to her if he needs to and be like, yo, what do you think? Because sometimes even, you train your ear so well to certain things, but vocals is this whole other world. And would you agree, like vocals, it's like 50% of the track? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
It's melodies, selling it, right?
It obviously depends on genre.
Yeah.
But like if you're 100%, like groove and vocal are everything.
Yeah, you have to have it to keep the listener and get the listener invested.
Yeah,
right. And so like it's not easy at all, but it is so much fun. It is such a joy to get to do it.
Well, that's why Joel is our vocal producer. Okay. I produce everything else. I mean, obviously we work in tandem, like we work together, obviously all the time. But I'm generally like a little bit more hardcore on the instruments and stuff, and way more like particular on rhythms and making sure everyone's like lining up with the kick drum and stuff like that. But when it comes to vocals, I'm like, okay, well, I don't know what the fuck's going on here, so I'm gonna let kind of Joel like do chord theory and like figure all that out. Like I know theory, but I don't have the best ear for pitch, so he does all that.
Oh yeah.
It's a perfect relationship because all of my weaknesses are his strengths, and it's the same thing with Alana. The only reason why I work with these people is because they do things that I suck at, right? And then together we're kick ass. It
takes humility. Yes, you have to master something, and you have to get good enough at something. Be like, yo, I'm good enough to do this and take control. But it also takes humility to say, yeah, but these things, I'm not quite there, and I can,
Good producers either know everything or they relinquish the stuff that they don't know. Any producer that like thinks they can stumble their way through something is going to make crappy songs.
I would tend to agree with this statement. And yeah, absolutely. So going back to Cevilain, I remember Cliff was saying he was, you guys were releasing a song every 6 weeks. So I'm guessing that's done now.
Well, we've the shows came up.
Okay.
And we really didn't want to compromise the tunes because of the shows. So we said the first 4 songs are 6 weeks. Once we put out the next song, it'll be 6 weeks apart again.
Awesome.
So we're going to have everything kind of lined up after that. It's kind of like the album's 7 songs. So, or it's the 7 Deadly Sins or whatever, right? So it's our take on whatever the hell that is. So we're taking a short break on getting brand new tunes, because 2 of the tunes that were on the first half of the record were already out, right? We just like redid them with different artists, or like, I mean, Wars was completely different than the original.
I would agree. And improved. And
huge.
I don't always believe that. I'll often hear people redo songs and I'm like,
well, but
I heard that, and I told Cliff this. I heard it and I was like, wow.
If you go back to what I was saying originally, where I didn't want to put out the first version of Wars, the first version of Wars was kind of just like Joel, the guy in our band, mixed it and everything like that and put it out. And I wasn't part of the group at that point. And then when the second version came out, Joel and I went hard into producing that to as close as we could get to what we wanted originally.
Yep.
And holy shit,
I agree.
It's a night and day. Yep. So it came down to it really, really came down to, how do we make this song exactly what we wanted it to be the first time? And we don't have to pull anything from the original. And all we had to use is the vocal melody, because we knew that part was good. So we took that and we just changed all the chords and changed
I
the
love that
arrangement.
song. That's one of my favorite Cevilain songs.
Me too.
For me, that's one of my favorites.
Me too.
But I'll talk about some of your super fans for a minute here. Trevor Phillips, who came on the show.
I love Trevor.
And incredibly loving, loyal fan base exists here in Ottawa. I mean, he's not the only one. There's Kylie and Connor and all these other people Super Kyle, who've assembled into this group, and they give love to musicians, but they love Cevilain.
They do.
And I won't beat around the bush there, folks. They give love to other bands, and I'll tell you, like, I almost cried when Trevor and Connor and Kylie drove to Toronto for Canadian Music Week for us. Like, I didn't get it. Like, I was like, it's 25 minutes, guys. Like, why would you drive 10 hours for a 25-minute set? Like, but they're like, no. Like, and then Connor gave, like, a pep talk that, like, again, almost made me weep. Like, he'd had 8 rum and coke at this point. And,
classic Connor.
And Connor was like, listen, you don't need to impress anyone in there. You don't need to do anything different.
Yeah.
You go in there and you do exactly what you did the first time I saw you guys.
Yeah.
Which is just be yourselves.
Yeah.
And I was like...
and he's so right.
I know.
In saying that, like,
I know.
that's actually really good advice.
Right?
Like, it's not like it's some drunk dude. Like, he's actually really, really insightful.
He really is.
We
really is.
We brought him in to listen to our record, On Death and Dying, which is the 5 Stages of Grief. We do concept records, and we gave him like a pre-screening, but it was pre-listening, and we filmed him listening to the thing, and that's how we put out the album. And he had this crazy, like, he had some stuff that he said that was like, oh, I love how the songs flow, and like how it like it almost teaches you something about the rises and falls of what it is to go through the stages in grief. I was like, dude, that's like super insightful. Like, he's actually like really, really smart when it comes to like interpreting art.
That's cool.
So I've whenever I see him at a show, I'm like, bro, like, how'd it go? Like, he's the guy I go to. I'm like, how did we sound? Like, and he'll give you like a really, really honest opinion.
I agree. But sometimes I ask Trevor, I'll be like, Trevor, do you judge music like this way? Do you like, and he doesn't judge it the same way I do. Like, some of those guys in that amazing group, like, they see music, like you said, differently. Like, they see ebbs and flows or things like this that we're like not even paying direct attention to.
They have weird insights because they know us as people too.
Interesting.
So like, when you have super fans that actually know you, you know, it's not like I like go to the bar with Connor very often or anything like that. But like, if it's just odd when he'll be like, oh man, like, I really like kind of understood what was going on here because of this other thing that I was aware of. And I'm like, oh, that's crazy. Like, you don't get that sort of interaction with your run of the mill fan, right? Like, it's only super fans that are aware of that sort of thing. So It's a really interesting way of pushing that forward and going, when you're writing a song and you're making a tune for yourself and you really believe in it, and then you're like, oh, I wonder what Connor's going to feel about this. It's something that I didn't think about before. And like, shout out to Connor and obviously Trevor and Kylie. It's all that's all synonymous to me.
Yeah.
You guys are all, out there doing,
Yeah, you're beautiful people. We all love them so much, don't we? I mean, just beautiful community that we have here. And that I'll always say the house that Cevilain built, and I don't have any bones about it. And because a lot of bands will say, oh, this, or we got these guys to come out, and I'll say, no, that's not how it happened. And even Cliff will give credit to another band. So I love the humility. Like, we all say, like, I'll give the credit to you guys. I remember Cliff, I can't remember the band, but Cliff was like, actually, it was this other band that did it. And
my question to you would be like, why is that our house? Like, why is that something that you think that we've...
A lot of people will talk about the scene here and about how it's improved. And to me, personally, a big part of it is Cevilain. And I don't have any, because to me, then Taming Sorry became a part of this. And I was pulled in by Cevilain. I was pulled in by your dream in a way.
So what was it that brought you? Because that like, to say that is one thing, but to like, you get, like, justify it in a way that I can actually understand.
I was out of it. So I was out of music.
Okay.
And I was done. I was completely done.
And then you just
do a
gig or something? Like,
no, I heard the song on the radio, and I had a flashback to playing a show with Cliff in 2012.
So it kind of gave you a feeling of like, I could do it?
It gave me a feeling of I know this voice, and I sang with this voice, and I can sing too, and we can do this. If he can do it, I can do it. We can do it
for sure.
And
you guys actually have really similar voices in a really weird way. You have that rasp, like vocal fry thing that, like...
I would agree. And the thing is, like, he's a gentleman, and like the way... See, okay, so sometimes you might perceive music as being like, oh, you got to be cutthroat. You got to be this to get ahead. You got to be that to get ahead. And Cliff is not those things, in my opinion. Like, so when I heard you guys on the radio, I was like, he's a good dude. Like, he's a good dude.
Yeah.
It means it's possible for good people to kind of move ahead in this world.
He's honest. Like,
yeah.
I mean, just like anybody, we have our stuff that we do that isn't always great. But I feel like he knows what he wants, and he's really driven. The guy is like, it's very, very rare that you're going to come across people that like want it as bad as Cliff does.
And if you go back before Cevilain, it's like Eagleson, right?
I was in that band too.
So what am I saying? Am I full of baloney, or am I pointing out people who are leading the scene and setting examples for others and helping others learn and record, like Rohan and other great musicians in the community who are rising up because of positivity and our willingness to learn and share information, teach, let people grow, that's the thing.
I think that as long as you have an environment where people are able to thrive, where they, it's hard to put into words, like they thrive in being themselves.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard to find that niche. And that's why people spread themselves really thin at the start, right? When you're first starting and you're like 18, 19, you're kind of like, oh, this thing and then this thing, everything is shiny and exciting. But then when you start to kind of get a little older, you go, well, I'm really good at these things. I'm really good at these things. And I like working with these people and stuff like that. And you start to narrow your focus as you get a little bit older. And I think one of the advantages of people that are younger that know exactly what specific niche they want to go into are had a huge advantage, because they don't have to waste their time with all the extra peripheral bullshit that they're not going to use anyway.
And another band in the area that I felt similar to Cevilain about, but will show you that it's not about genre or about rock. It's like the Peptides were fundamentally huge in the development of my view of how to develop a band and how to move forward as a band and how to present yourselves.
They're dim on my radar. I can't remember who is in that group.
So if you check it out, you'll see that they all wear matching outfits. There's 7 of them.
Epic.
They represent, queer life, all life. They don't give a shit. It's beautiful. Yeah. And it's a pop Peptides. I don't know how to describe it. It's poppy. It's vibey. Lots of people singing, taking turns.
Epic.
And they taught me about the vibe of a band and how to mesh it together and how you need to all kind of, in a way, mesh in a way. It needs to mesh. If one person stands out everyone will notice in the crowd. Everyone in the crowd will say, this person stands out for some reason.
Yeah.
And you'll put your finger on the exact reason why. So they're one of those bands that just showed me how cohesiveness and also the planning stages and learning about choreography. So you might not think about it, very much as a band, but choreography can be a big deal, like blocking. Like, we're here at this point in the song, but we're there at that point in the song, and then we cross paths, and then we come together.
Do you think the more time people spend together, the better they get at that, or the further apart they can? I guess you could get both, right? Like,
I think you need the right people. You need the right willingness. You need the right humility. I think the Peptides is full of a bunch of actors. I think they're full of a bunch of theatrical people like myself.
That makes a lot of sense, yeah.
If you put me in a room with people and you say, like, we're doing a theatrical project, I'm just like, let's go. Let's do this. And if someone's like, we're going to need to wear this, and we're going to need, yes, and we're going to need this too, right?
Yeah.
And because once you do improv, you learn that no is the death of everything.
Yeah, exactly. So it's yes and.
Yes,
right?
correct.
Yeah.
And you just have fun with it. So,
which is funny because, like, I remember when Cliff and I we're friends with these guys in a band called The Funeral Portrait, and they just hit #1 on Billboard for active rock. They're freaking huge. They did a song with Ice Nine Kills there, Spencer, and some other huge artists, Low Spirits, stuff like that. They're awesome. They're super nice guys. Every time they come to town, we say hi, and they're super super dope. But we went and saw them in Toronto, playing with Conquer Divide, which we're also friends with a couple members from that group. And so we wanted to go say hi to some homies. So we go down there and we see them, we see the Funeral Portrait, and we're like, damn, they're all wearing freaking, like, they're all like wearing like funeral culty black kind of stuff with like logos and stuff. And I was like, damn, that looks really cool. So I looked at Cliff and I said, what can we do that's like that? And it inspired me to go, okay, well, like, what, everyone wears black. Let's go the other way. Let's wear white. Now we have to be careful with that, obviously, for obvious reasons. But we wanted to go with that, like, something that is like against the grain, but with the grain at the same time. Like the uniform thing is really cool. And I feel like it really conveys what we're trying to do with the music at the same time. So we went balls deep into that. And I think Cliff, it's so funny. He went to the extent of even like getting a set of coveralls totally tailored, wore them for one show, and then said, I don't like wearing coveralls, and then stopped doing it. Like wasted like $80 on getting that coveralls tailored, and then he just gave it to Ed because he was like, I don't know.
I tell you, if it chafes you, there's no point in wearing it.
That's why I don't wear a shirt, because it's like, I don't have to wear anything.
Yeah, chafing's no good. I saw Ed at the show there for Super Kyle's birthday, and I walked up to him and I said, I hit on him. I'm not gonna lie.
That was at the Rainbow, eh?
That's right. Yeah. He was with Tessa, so
yeah.
I don't feel too bad, but I did just walk up to him and hit on him.
Yeah,
just
totally.
Like, Ed, you look fucking good.
We hit on him every day, man.
And
he dropped a ton of weight. He stopped drinking. He's sober. Like, he's a year sober now.
Dude looks sick, bro.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
He's been through it all, man. His heart stopped from alcohol and stuff like that. He's been through it. Like, he's had a really, really, really tough go, and the fact that he's managed to stay sober over this last year, everything he's been through, like, kudos to Ed. Like, the dude's a freaking legend.
But when I saw him, I just said, you look good.
Yeah.
I said, you look really good. And Tessa was like, yeah, you do. Yeah. And I was like, okay, good.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Like, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, man.
And
love it.
Having each other's backs, right? Like, hell yeah. And there is a coolness to Cevilain that I really appreciate, and a lot of bands do. A lot of artists in the city do.
That's cool to hear.
Yeah, man.
I don't think that's ever been the goal, so it's interesting that that's almost like a side effect. Like, we try to just do us to the extreme. We turn ourselves up to 10.
But you don't apologize for it, do you?
No, I think that there's a lot of sometimes we're like, oh, we don't know if we should do this type thing, but we do it anyway, and it always pays off.
Right? Like,
when we were like, oh, we're gonna wear white, we were always like, guys, like, we really don't want people to see this the wrong way. But we were like, no, like this isn't exclusive to whatever bullshit came before us. Like, we can own this. And like, we're good enough to own this, and it ended up playing. People love it, and like, we love it too. It also makes it so I don't have to worry about what I'm going to wear on show day, because that sucks.
And cohesiveness is important. Like I was saying, right? You're sending messages artistically in so many different ways.
Sure.
So it's important. So everybody, make sure that you get out to this show tomorrow. If you can. I mean, I think they're going to be sold out. I bet you it'll be sold out by the time you see this. I'm going to release this at like 11 a.m. tomorrow.
Cool. Yeah.
So we'll see.
Today.
Maybe people will get Maybe we'll get a couple of chances at 1 or 2 tickets. We'll see.
Sick.
And then December 14th, we've got the Spectrasonic Holiday Bash or Holiday
Banger, they're calling it. Yeah. Yeah, they do it every year. Yeah.
And that's going to be a big party. I mean, there's the new hires who I've seen live. They're
so
awesome.
Sick.
Right?
Oh my God, they're sick.
My boy Taylor was recording them not long ago.
Epic.
And then there's also, who else is on the bill? We got Complicit, of course. And
Fifth.
Oh, yeah, yes.
Everybody
awesome.
loves Fifth.
Yeah,
man, they're like Limp Bizkit, but like new age.
So you have more time to buy tickets for that. So if you miss out on I'm Other Earth, Cevilain tomorrow, then, get into the Complicit on December 14th.
Oh, yeah.
That's going to be a wicked show at the Bronson Centre. And keep your eye and ear open for the new tracks coming. I guess there's more coming from Cevilain
Yeah,
soon.
well, Complicit's actually putting a song out on the 13th, the day before the show. We did a song inspired by season 5 of American Horror Story.
Love it.
Yeah, it's about like just some really fucked up shit. So Alana wrote the lyrics about it. I just wrote the track, but it kicks ass, and that's coming out with a cool visualizer and stuff like that. So definitely check that out. It's gonna be really cool.
Hell yeah. So I just want to say thank you so much, Andrew, for coming on, chatting with me. I really appreciate it.
It's a good hang.
Hell yeah.
Let's do it, man.
And thank you out there for watching, and I hope we see you all again next time on All Worn Out. Bye-bye, everybody.